Hi everyone, I'm Nick. This is Baked Bread Instead, and today we're going to be making a carrot bagel. Start things off by roughly chopping around 3 medium-sized carrots and add them to a pot of boiling water. We want to get these nice and soft. Once that's done, you want to make sure that you don't discard that boiling water. It's what we're going to use to hydrate our dough. Put it to one side, we'll come back to it later. Measure out around 500 grams of strong white bread flour and add into that a pinch of caster sugar and 10 grams of salt. I'm also going to add in a little pinch of cumin. I particularly like the flavour pairing of carrot and cumin. Don't feel compelled to add this if you don't like it though, because it doesn't really change the dough or the recipe itself. Set that off to one side and start weighing out your wet ingredients. We are going to use around 275 grams or 275 millilitres of that carrot water, and then we're going to mash down our carrots as an additive to the dough. They'll add some more hydration, and what I've found doing this with carrots and more recently pumpkin is that adding some kind of boiled, stewed or roasted vegetable matter to your dough really does something to improve the texture of the bread in the end result. So we're going to get carrot water and then additional carrot flavour and also improved dough by adding that mashed boiled carrot in at this stage. I've added 50 grams on top of our water, so our total weight of wet ingredients for this recipe is around 325 grams. Once that's done, put it to one side because we're going to add yeast. We don't want it to be too hot, just tepid, sort of lukewarm conditions. 7 grams of instant yeast, that's around 1 sachet, is plenty for this recipe. We're going to stir that in and get ready to mix it into our dry ingredients. Make a little well in the middle, give yourself plenty of room, and pour in the water and carrot. Mix it well with a wooden spoon, your hand, or any other implement that you particularly like to stir your dough with. This is a bagel dough. It's going to be stiff, it's going to be easy to work with. It's just about 65 to 70% hydration, so we should have no problem turning this out to knead it, and we can work with our hands quite happily without getting into too much of a mess. We're going to get our dough ball down on a surface and work on our kneading technique. Now, I've mentioned in a few other videos that the way I like to do this is use one hand to push the dough away, bring it back to itself and fold it over, turning the dough as and when I need to make sure that every side of it is getting worked. What's important is that we keep the downward facing side down throughout the process. That will help us build tension, make sure that we're always getting towards a smoother dough. If you keep flipping it and working it on different sides and in different directions, you tend to rip and tear the dough even when it's sufficiently kneaded. So keep it facing down, keep pushing away and folding back round, and just work methodically around your dough until it's nice and smooth. You should be able to pick it up, transfer it to a bowl, cover it, and let it rise until it's roughly doubled. Once we've got there, it's time to turn it out and separate it into the individual bagels. So to do that, we put it back on the surface, make ourselves a long log. It's easier to make equal portions from a log, I feel, than it is to make equal portions from a bowl. And we slice it down into 6. 500 grams of flour tends to give 6 large bagels that are good for sandwiches and are a large individual portion for one person. You can make smaller bagels, but I wouldn't advise going much larger than these ones because I think they're kind of at that upper limit. Shape them up into little balls in their own right. To do that, we just pull one edge, turn it over into the middle, as you can see I'm doing here, working our way around, building tension before scooping it under our hand and rolling it on the surface. Once they're all shaped up, it's time to transfer them to something where they can proof once again. I'm going to use one of these large non-stick roasters that I have. They're dead convenient for this kind of thing, but anywhere that you can get them covered until they're doubled in size without disturbing them is perfect. Move them onto a table and then we start the shaping process for our bagel. Now you could see what I did there was take opposite sides of the dough ball, pull them into the middle before rolling out into a snake. We twist it round our hand and we're using a decent amount of pressure. We push down and roll back and forward to seal that seam. It should be thoroughly sealed by the time you're done. We don't want these springing open as they boil later on. Repeat that process for all the bagels that you're going to make. We're doing a half dozen, and when you're done they should all look roughly even in size, but don't panic if the one that you started with has started to puff up and prove. It may look bigger than the rest by the time you're done, but they should still appear roughly similar. Now we need to get these coated with semolina because that improves the bite and texture, so we're going to put them back in that roaster so we can evenly dust them. But you could do this anywhere really, just clean up after yourself because that cornmeal has a tendency to get absolutely everywhere. Cover both sides and then put these to one side so that they can have one final proof before they get put into the boiling water ready to go in the oven. While they're off to one side rising, we're going to boil a full kettle. That's going to give us a head start. And we're also going to prepare some kind of large baking sheet. You could do this on a stone, anything that's heavy. I use the grill pan, or what might be called the broiler pan if you're from the States. It's good because it fits into the slots in my oven. It's the heaviest metal pan that I have, and it's easy for me to slide my bagels off of that wooden board into the oven and get heat from the bottom and all sides straight away. When you're making bagels, you boil them before they go in, so we're going to do that in a mixture of hot water and something sugary. In this case, it's honey. In the past, I've used golden syrup, and I think traditionally it's a treacle or molasses that's used to sweeten the water that bagels are boiled in. Once it's at a full rolling boil, we're going to get our bagels in there. We want to give them 30 seconds per side. Because they float, if you want to get an even boil, you need to turn them halfway through. So 30 seconds in, turn them, give them another 30 seconds in that hot water before transferring them to some kind of rack or somewhere that you can store them before they go into the oven. Just let them drip and dry off a touch before they get put onto the hot pan. At this point, they will be quite delicate, so be careful not to overhandle them. Don't poke or prod them. Just trust that even though they might look a little bit flat, they will puff up in the oven and form into wonderfully round risen bagels. Like I said, I already know that this sheet of baking paper is the right size to slide onto that broiler tin, so I put my bagels on it on a wooden tray, and I can transfer quickly onto an already heated surface. You could put them on a cold baking sheet and put them into the oven like that, but I think it's better to get them cooking from the bottom straight away without needing to heat up what they're cooking on. Around 18 minutes later at 200 Celsius, these are ready. They should be golden top and bottom with just a slight pale rim going around the centre. That little band of lighter dough is a good indication that these will still be soft and won't be overbaked. Let them cool on that rack that you used earlier, and in about an hour's time they'll be ready to go. What I've noticed with this recipe is that these bagels keep so much better at room temperature and in room conditions than my normal bagel. I think it might be something to do with the added ascorbic acid or vitamin C that comes by adding something like carrot into the dough. But they're super soft, they're really fluffy and light, and they keep much longer, so I think it's a win. Give this a try, let me know how you get on, and I'll see you in the next one. Enjoy!